In the once thriving kingdom of Ekuvonu, a single mistake has unleashed a devastating curse. Can Prince Sefu and Obasi uncover the truth and restore balance before it's too late? You must unite your people, or Ekuvonu will fall. The fate of the kingdom rests on their courage. Will they succeed? Find out now. The sun shone brightly over the kingdom of Ekuvonu. The people were happy, their farms were full of crops, and the river Olokun flowed gently, blessing the land with its water. The river was not just any river, it was the home of the mighty river spirit, Olokun. For many years, the kings of Ekuvonu had made sure to respect Olokun by keeping the sacred bond strong. In the grand palace, King Asamo sat on his throne. He was a wise and kind king, but his son, Prince Sefu, was different. Sefu was proud, and he always wanted more gold, more power, more of everything. He didn't care much about the rules of the land or the warnings of the elders. One day, the royal priest, Olokun, came to the palace. He was an old man with a long white beard and a voice that everyone listened to. "Your Majesty," Olokun said, bowing before the king. "It is time to offer the yearly gifts to Olokun. We must take fresh yams, white cloth, and the finest wine to the river as a sign of respect. If we do this, Olokun will continue to bless our kingdom." King Asamo nodded. "As always, Olokun. Make sure everything is ready." But Prince Sefu, who was standing nearby, frowned. "Why must we keep giving gifts to a river spirit? We are the rulers of Ekuvonu, not Olokun." Olokun looked at Sefu with worry. "Prince Sefu, Olokun is not just a river spirit. Olokun has kept our land safe and fertile for many years. Without Olokun's blessings, our kingdom will suffer." Sefu waved his hand dismissively. "I don't believe in these old stories. We have enough riches. We don't need a spirit to protect us." Later that night, Sefu called his friends, young men who admired his boldness. "I have a plan," Sefu said with a sly grin. "The river is full of treasures, pearls, gold, and more. Why should we leave them in the water when they could be ours?" One of his friends, Dami, hesitated. "But, Prince, the river belongs to Olokun. Olokun says taking from it without permission is forbidden." Sefu laughed. "Forbidden? Who will stop us? Olokun is just a story to scare children. Tomorrow, we'll take what belongs to us." The next morning, while the people of Ekuvonu were busy in the marketplace, Sefu and his friends went to the river. They brought boats, nets, and tools to dig into the riverbed. As they worked, the clear water turned muddy. Fish swam away, and the once calm river began to ripple angrily. Suddenly, the sky grew dark, even though it was midday. The wind howled, and the river roared as if it was alive. Sefu and his friends froze in fear. A deep voice echoed from the water. "Who dares to disturb the sacred river?" It was Olokun, the mighty river spirit. The water rose like a giant wave, forming a figure with glowing eyes. Sefu trembled but tried to act brave. "I am Prince Sefu," he said. "I am not afraid of you. This river belongs to my kingdom, and I will take what I want." Olokun's voice thundered, shaking the ground. "You have broken the sacred bond. For your pride and greed, Ekuvonu shall suffer. From this day, the firstborn of every family will be cursed." Before Sefu could respond, the wave crashed down, tossing him and his friends onto the riverbank. The boats were destroyed, and the treasures they had taken sank back into the water. Back in the palace, King Asamo was meeting with his advisors when Olokun rushed in, his face pale with fear. "Your Majesty, something terrible has happened. The river has turned black, and the fish are dying. People are falling sick, and Olokun hesitated. And what? The king asked. The firstborns are crying in pain, Baba Ojin said softly. It is the curse of Olokun. The king's heart sank. He knew this was because of Sefu's actions. Just then, Sefu stumbled into the palace, soaked and covered in mud. Father, it was a mistake. I didn't mean to. King Asamo stood up, his voice trembling with anger. You have brought ruin to this kingdom, Sefu. You have disrespected Olokun, and now our people will suffer. What have you done? The once beautiful river, now dark and lifeless. Families in the village hold their sick firstborns, crying and begging for help. Sefu stands in the palace, looking ashamed, while King Asamo stares at him with disappointment. Meanwhile, in a small hut far from the palace, a humble farmer named Obasi watches the dark sky. He doesn't know it yet, but his simple life is about to change forever. Obasi was a simple farmer who lived on the edge of the kingdom. His small farm was surrounded by tall palm trees, and he worked hard every day to grow yams and cassava. Though he didn't have much, Obasi was content with his life. He was known in the village for his kindness, always helping others without expecting anything in return. One evening, as he sat outside his hut eating roasted yams, Obasi noticed the sky was darker than usual. The air felt heavy, and the sound of the river, usually gentle and calming, was now loud and angry. What is happening to our land? Obasi asked himself. His neighbor, Mama Ngozi, came running to him with tears in her eyes. Obasi, she cried. My son, my firstborn, he is sick. He has been crying in pain all day. I don't know what to do. Obasi stood up quickly. I will come and see him, he said. When Obasi entered Mama Ngozi's hut, her son was lying on the floor, weak and pale. The boy's breathing was shallow, and his eyes were closed. Obasi knelt beside him and whispered, Stay strong, little one. As he left the hut, Obasi looked toward the river and thought, something terrible has angered Olokun. That night, as Obasi slept, he had a strange dream. He found himself standing by the river, but it looked different. The water was clear, and the air smelled sweet. Suddenly, a figure appeared from the water. It was Olokun, the mighty river spirit. Obasi, Olokun's voice echoed, soft yet powerful. You are pure of heart. You have not been blinded by greed or pride. I need your help to restore balance to Ekuvonu. Obasi knelt before the spirit. Me? I am just a farmer. How can I help? Olokun's glowing eyes softened. Your humility and courage make you stronger than kings and princes. Go to the palace and tell King Asamo that the curse can be lifted, but only if certain tasks are completed. What tasks, Great Spirit? Obasi asked. First, the prince must confess his wrongdoing and seek forgiveness. Second, an offering of purest intent must be made to the river. Lastly, the people of Ekuvonu must come together as one to rebuild the sacred bond with me. Before Obasi could ask more, the dream faded, and he woke up with a start. He sat up, his heart pounding. The morning sun was rising, casting a dim light over his farm. Was it just a dream? He wondered. But deep down, he knew it was real. Obasi decided to go to the palace, even though he was nervous. He packed a small bag with some yams and water and began his journey. Along the way, he passed villagers who looked worried and tired. Many were holding their firstborns, who were weak and crying softly. Where are you going, Obasi? One man asked. To the palace, Obasi replied. I believe I can help. The man shook his head. The prince has angered Olokun. What can a simple farmer do? Obasi smiled gently. Sometimes, the simplest things can make the biggest difference. When he reached the palace gates, the guards stopped him. "What business do you have here, farmer?" "I must speak to the king," Obasi said firmly. "It is about the curse." The guards laughed. "You think the king will listen to someone like you?" But before they could send him away, Baba Ojin, the royal priest, appeared. He had been praying in the temple when he felt a strange pull to the palace gates. "Let him in," Baba Ojin said. "I sense he is here for an important reason." Inside the grand hall, King Asimo sat on his throne, looking older and more tired than ever. Beside him stood Prince Sefu, his face full of guilt and fear. The air in the room was heavy with sadness. Obasi stepped forward and bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, I bring a message from Olokun." The king's eyes widened. "A message? What do you mean?" Obasi explained his dream, repeating every word Olokun had said. As he spoke, the room fell silent. Even Sefu, who often scoffed at others, listened closely. "The curse can be lifted," Obasi concluded. "But it requires great courage and humility. Prince Sefu must confess, and the people must unite." Prince Sefu clenched his fists. "Why should I confess? I was only trying to help the kingdom grow richer. I didn't mean for this to happen." King Asimo looked at his son with disappointment. "Sefu, your pride has caused great pain. If confessing is what it takes to save our people, then you must do it." Sefu hesitated, his face turning red. I don't know if I can." Obasi stepped closer to Sefu. "Sometimes, admitting we are wrong is the bravest thing we can do. The people need you to make this right." The palace was silent, but the tension in the air was thick. Prince Sefu paced back and forth in his chambers, his mind racing. Obasi's words echoed in his ears, "Admitting we are wrong is the bravest thing we can do." Sefu looked out of his window and saw the villagers outside the palace gates, their faces filled with fear and desperation. He knew their suffering was his fault, but his pride held him back. He clenched his fists, fighting an internal battle between guilt and arrogance. Suddenly, there was a knock on his door. It was Baba Ojin, the royal priest. "Sefu," Baba Ojin said gently, "you carry the burden of this curse, but you also hold the power to end it. The people are waiting for their prince to do what is right." Sefu sighed deeply. "But how can I face them after what I've done? They will hate me." Baba Ojin placed a comforting hand on Sefu's shoulder. "True leaders are not perfect, but they take responsibility for their mistakes. Show them you can be the prince they deserve." The next morning, a crowd gathered in the palace courtyard. Word had spread that Prince Sefu was going to address the people. Mothers held their firstborns close, hoping for a miracle, while fathers looked on with anger and sadness. Prince Sefu stepped forward, his heart pounding. He looked at the faces of the people he had wronged, and for the first time, he saw the depth of their pain. "I have come to speak the truth," Sefu began, his voice trembling. I was wrong. I let my pride blind me, and I disrespected Olokun. I thought I could take what I wanted without facing the consequences. But I was foolish, and because of me, our kingdom is cursed." Gasps filled the air. Some villagers murmured angrily, while others began to weep. "I don't ask for your forgiveness," Sefu continued. "I only ask for your trust as I try to make things right. With your support, I will do whatever it takes to lift this curse." Obasi stepped forward and placed a reassuring hand on Sefu's shoulder. "The first step is the hardest, but you have taken it. Now, we must prepare for the offering to Olokun." Baba Ojin instructed the villagers to gather items for the offering, the freshest yams, the whitest cloth, and the purest wine. Obasi and Sefu worked together to prepare everything, earning the respect of the villagers. The people walked in a solemn procession to the riverbank, carrying the offerings. At the front of the group was Sefu, holding a bowl of fresh water to symbolize purity and humility. When they reached the river, the water was still dark and restless. Obasi stepped forward and spoke to the spirit. "Great Olokun, we have come with open hearts and pure intentions. Prince Sefu is here to confess his wrongs and seek your forgiveness. Please, accept our offering and lift this curse from our land." Sefu knelt by the river, his head bowed. "Mighty Olokun, I was wrong to take what was not mine. I was blinded by pride and greed. I beg for your mercy, not for my sake, but for the people of Ekuvonu. They do not deserve to suffer for my mistakes." The crowd held their breath as the river grew still. Then, the deep voice of Olokun echoed from the water. "Sefu, your confession is heard. But words alone are not enough. To truly restore balance, you must complete the final task, unite the people of Ekuvonu to rebuild the sacred bond with me." The people returned to the village with a sense of hope, but they knew the final task would not be easy. Ekuvonu had been divided for years, with villagers mistrusting one another due to greed and competition. Obasi gathered the villagers in the marketplace. "Olokun has spoken. To save our land, we must work together. It is not enough to rely on one person or one family. We must all come together as one." An elderly woman named Mama Adena stepped forward. "But how can we unite when so much has divided us? Some have more, while others have nothing. How do we share the burden?" Obasi smiled. "We share it with love and understanding. Those who have more can give to those who have less. Those who are strong can help the weak. Together, we can restore the bond that Olokun values so much." Prince Sefu took the lead in organizing the effort. He went from house to house, apologizing to the villagers and encouraging them to join the cause. Slowly, the people began to trust him again. Farmers shared their crops, fishermen brought their catch, and artisans contributed their skills to repair the damage caused by the curse. Even the river began to show signs of healing. The water, though still dark, no longer carried the foul smell that had plagued it for weeks. Sefu stood beside Obasi, watching the villagers work together. "I never thought I'd see the day when Ekuvonu could be united like this," Sefu said. "It is because of your courage to admit your mistakes," Obasi replied. "This is just the beginning, but we are on the right path. The curse of Ekuvonu grows stronger, and the truth behind Olokun's wrath will be revealed. Can Sefu and Obasi uncover the secrets of the past before it's too late? Find out in part 2.